I thought I had the perfect marriage, until I discovered my husband had a secret life. For years, I convinced myself that what we were doing wasn't wrong. That we were different. Stronger. Smarter. We had rules. We had boundaries. And as long as we followed them, nothing could break us. But trust isn't just about setting rules. It's about knowing, deep in your bones, that the person you love is choosing you every single day. I was sure Dexter was choosing me. I was wrong. You think you know the person you sleep next to. You think you understand their heart, their desires, their limits. But one day, you wake up and realize the person you trusted most has been lying to you. And the worst part? You let them. For 3 years, I thought I was in control. I thought we had found a way to keep our marriage exciting, until I realized I was just another fool. It all started with a message I was never supposed to see. Before we begin, I want to warn you that this story contains mature themes. It deals with the challenges of trust, betrayal, and the devastating weight of infidelity. If these topics make you uncomfortable, you might want to stop watching now. But if you stay, I promise you, this story will change the way you look at love forever. If you're still here, let's begin. I grew up in a world of rules. Structure. Expectations. My parents, Egyptian immigrants who built a life in America, believed in discipline, education, and faith. They raised me to be the perfect daughter, the perfect wife. A woman of dignity. A woman of restraint. And for a long time I was. My name is Jalen Schaefer. I am 28 years old. I wear my hijab in public. I pray when I am supposed to. I have a master's degree in computer science, and I write C code for one of the largest tech companies in the country. To anyone who sees me on the street, I am what they expect me to be. But expectations mean nothing when your reality is something else entirely. My marriage was arranged when I was 22. I was young, naive, and scared, but I was lucky. Dexter Maynard wasn't a stranger forced into my life, he was the man who made everything feel easy. He was charming, patient, and kind. A black man raised in a progressive Muslim family, he understood me in ways I didn't even understand myself. We built something real. At least, I thought we did. For years, we were happy. Truly happy. We had the kind of love that made people envious, the kind where we finish each other's sentences, where our fights never lasted more than a day. He made me laugh. He made me feel safe. He made me believe that love, real love, was enough. And then, it wasn't. Dexter was different from the men I was raised around. He saw marriage as more than duty, it was an adventure. He was curious, open-minded, fearless. And when he looked at me, I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before, hunger. Not just for me. But for more. Always more. It started with small things. Conversations late at night about fantasies, about the things couples never say out loud. He told me that love and loyalty weren't defined by possession. That a relationship could be stronger, more honest, if we explored our desires together. And God help me, I believed him. At first, it was just talk. But talk turned into curiosity. Curiosity turned into action. And that's how we met Carolyn McCormick. Carolyn came into my life when we were both pregnant. She was vibrant, magnetic, the kind of woman who filled up a room just by existing. She had this way of making you feel like you were the most fascinating person in the world. And for a while, I thought I was. She became my best friend. My safe space. The first person I ever told my darkest thoughts to without fear of judgment. And then one night, when our babies were asleep in their cribs, we sat together on my couch, laughing, drinking wine, and I kissed her. I don't know who started it. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was her. Maybe it had been coming all along, something inevitable that neither of us wanted to stop. All I know is that Dexter walked in, saw us, and instead of anger, I saw something else in his face. Excitement. Approval. And just like that, we opened a door we couldn't close. What began as one night turned into something more. A secret world, hidden beneath the surface of our perfect marriage. We found others like us, people who lived by different rules, who didn't believe in monogamy, who saw pleasure as something to be shared. We joined a community. At first, it was thrilling. Addictive. The rush of new experiences, the feeling of breaking every rule I had ever been taught, and doing it with the man I loved by my side. But even in a world without rules, some lines should never be crossed. That's where Josiah Brown comes in. He was different from the others. Confident. Dangerous. The kind of man who didn't ask for permission, he just took what he wanted. He had a way of looking at me that made my skin burn, made me forget my own name. He played the long game, watching, waiting. Letting me think I was in control. Until I wasn't. Dexter trusted him. Liked him. Even admired him. But Josiah didn't want my husband's friendship. He wanted me. And the worst part? I wanted him too. For 3 years, Dexter and I lived a double life. We convinced ourselves that we were untouchable, that what we had was different. Stronger. Smarter. We weren't like the others. We had rules. We had boundaries. We had each other. Until the day I realized that those rules only applied to me. Because while I was giving everything to Dexter, my love, my trust, my body, he was giving his to someone else. And not just anyone. Not another woman. Josiah. In the beginning, it was exciting. It felt like we had unlocked some secret part of life that other people were too afraid to explore. Dexter and I were closer than ever, sharing everything. Our fantasies, our bodies, our secrets. It was us against the world. That's what I told myself. But then, something shifted. I don't know exactly when it started. Maybe it was the first time Dexter went to a party without me. Or when he stopped looking at me the way he used to. At first, I thought I was imagining it. That I was being paranoid. That maybe this was just part of the experience. A natural phase in something we had chosen together. But paranoia has a way of digging in. Once it takes hold, it doesn't let go. Dexter started coming home later. Always with a reason. Always with an excuse. Josiah and I are meeting with the group. Carolyn wanted to talk about some things for the next party. It's nothing, babe. I thought you wanted this. I wanted honesty. I wanted trust. I wanted what we had in the beginning. But Dexter wasn't giving me any of those things. I stopped recognizing the man I had married. He used to be present, engaged, fully with me. Now, when we were together, it felt like I was alone in the room. He was there physically, but his mind was somewhere else. And his phone, his damn phone, never left his hand. He used to leave it on the counter, unlocked, like it was nothing. But now? It was always with him. Face down. Notifications silenced. Messages deleted before I could see them. I told myself I was overreacting. That this was just my insecurity talking. But then, there were the nights he didn't come home. It got late. I just crashed at Josiah's place. Babe, we were just talking. You know how we get caught up. Stop looking at me like that. Carolyn and Josiah started acting differently around me too. At first, we were all close. Almost like family. But then, the energy changed. Conversations between them would stop when I walked into the room. They exchanged looks when Dexter spoke, glances that were too quick, too knowing. It felt like I had missed the punchline to some private joke. Like I was the only one in the dark. One night, I was at Carolyn's house. We were sitting on the couch, drinking, talking, like we always did. But I noticed something, a tension I couldn't place. She wasn't looking me in the eyes. Her laugh was forced. She kept glancing at her phone, fingers twitching like she wanted to check something, but couldn't. Like she was waiting for something. Or someone. I watched her closely. Too closely. I was waiting for her to slip. And she did. When she turned her phone just slightly, I saw the name at the top of the screen. Dexter. She must have seen the look on my face, because she pulled the phone away too fast, setting it face down like it had burned her. My stomach twisted. Something was wrong. I didn't know what, but I felt it in my bones. And then there was that night. The night Dexter whispered another woman's name in his sleep. We hadn't touched each other in weeks. Not really. He was there, but distant. A ghost in our marriage. That night, I stayed awake longer than usual, watching him. Studying the way he breathed, the way his fingers twitched against the sheets. And then, in the middle of the night, he turned onto his side and murmured something so soft I almost missed it. A name. At first, I thought I had imagined it. But then he said it again. Clearer this time. Josiah. I lay there, frozen. My mind racing. My heart pounding so hard it hurt. It had to be a mistake. It had to be. But deep down, I knew. I knew. The signs had been there for months. The secrets. The distance. The nights away. The way Josiah looked at him. The way Dexter looked back. I was losing him. No. I had already lost him. I just didn't want to see it. That night, I stared at the ceiling until the sun rose. My mind ran in circles, searching for an explanation that didn't lead to the truth. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe. But maybe wasn't enough anymore. I started watching Dexter more closely. I became an investigator in my own marriage. Tracking the things he said, the things he didn't say. Paying attention to the way he touched me, how it felt rehearsed, almost like muscle memory instead of real desire. I checked his pockets when he showered. I memorized the way his phone screen lit up when he thought I wasn't looking. I studied him like he was a stranger I was trying to understand. And then, I saw it. The message. The one I was never supposed to see. Some truths don't come to you gently. They don't whisper. They don't ease their way in like a slow realization. They hit you. Hard. Fast. Like a car crash. Like a knife to the gut. Like a tidal wave that pulls you under before you even realize you're drowning. My truth came in the middle of the night, wrapped in the soft glow of a laptop screen. Dexter had always been careful. Too careful. His phone never left his side. His messages were wiped clean before I could even get suspicious. But that night, he slipped. He fell asleep on the couch, his laptop still open on the coffee table, a dull blue light casting shadows across the room. I wasn't looking for anything. Not at first. I was just going to close it. Just turn off the screen. But then, as I reached for it, something flashed, a notification, an open chat window, a name I had stopped expecting to see. Josiah. My stomach twisted. I shouldn't have clicked. I should have walked away. But my hands moved before my mind could stop them. And then, I saw it. I can't wait to have you again, last weekend was incredible. I need more. More. The word sat there, mocking me. More of what? More of who? My heart slammed against my ribs as I scrolled up. Message after message. Late-night conversations. Inside jokes. Confessions that were too intimate, too familiar, too much. Words meant for lovers. Words that should have belonged to me. But they weren't talking about me. I read, line after line, unable to breathe. My hands trembled, my pulse roared in my ears, but I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. Because there it was. The truth I had been trying to avoid. The proof I had never wanted to find. Dexter wasn't cheating on me with another woman. He was cheating on me with Josiah. Something inside me cracked. Split open. I felt it, the moment my world tilted on its axis, the moment everything I thought I knew collapsed beneath me. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone. I wanted to move, but my body refused to obey. I kept scrolling. My fingers numb. My vision blurred. My breath coming in short, sharp bursts. Last night was perfect. I couldn't stop thinking about you. I don't know how much longer we can keep this quiet. She's starting to notice. You feel like home to me. Home. That was the one that broke me. Dexter had told me that once. Years ago, on our wedding night. I had been nervous, unsure, still adjusting to the idea of being someone's wife. And he had cupped my face, looked me in the eyes, and whispered, "You feel like home to me." I had believed him. But now, I knew. I wasn't home. I wasn't anything. I should have been angry. Furious. But in that moment, all I felt was hollow. A vast, aching emptiness stretching inside me, consuming everything in its path. Dexter and Josiah. My husband and the man who had been circling me for months, waiting, watching. They had been together behind my back. They had taken everything I thought was mine and twisted it into something I didn't recognize. And the worst part? The part that made my skin crawl, my stomach turn, my chest tighten until I thought I might shatter? Everyone knew. Carolyn knew. The group knew. They had all seen it, all watched it happen, and not a single one of them had told me. Not one of them had looked me in the eyes and said, "Jalen, you deserve to know the truth." I had been the fool. The last to know. The punchline to a joke I hadn't even realized was being told. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hand still hovering over the keyboard, my heart still racing, waiting for something to make sense. Waiting for it to stop hurting. It didn't. Because betrayal doesn't just hurt. It rewrites you. It takes everything you thought you knew about yourself, your life, your love, and burns it to the ground. I thought I knew my husband. I was wrong. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The night stretched endlessly, the silence pressing in on me like a weight I couldn't shake. I sat there, in the dark, the glow of Dexter's laptop illuminating everything I never wanted to see. Message after message. Confessions. Promises. Things meant for lovers, for soulmates. Not for me. Not for the man who vowed to stand by my side. The words blurred together, but I kept reading, kept scrolling, as if some part of me thought I'd find an answer hidden in the lies. A reason. An explanation that would make this make sense. There wasn't one. So I waited. I waited for the man I loved to walk through the door, still believing, God help me, that maybe, somehow, there was still a way to fix this. The key turned in the lock just past 3 a.m. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I just listened as Dexter stepped inside, dropping his bag by the door, stretching his arms like a man who had no idea the ground beneath him was about to collapse. He must have sensed something was wrong, because he hesitated, his footsteps slowing as he made his way into the living room. And then he saw me. Sitting in the dark. His laptop open in front of me. His secrets spilling across the screen. For the first time in months, I had his full attention. Explain this. My voice was quiet. Steady. Almost too calm. But inside, I was unraveling, breaking apart piece by piece. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand why. But all I could do was wait. Wait for him to give me something, anything, to make this hurt less. Dexter's face drained of color. His body stiffened, his eyes darting from me to the laptop, back to me again. Panic flickered across his features, then, nothing. Just silence. Not denial. Not an excuse. Just silence. And somehow, that was worse. Seconds passed like hours. My hands clenched into fists, nails biting into my skin, trying to anchor myself to something real. Finally, he spoke. Jalen. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. He knew. And now, so did I. You were never going to tell me, were you? He ran a hand down his face, exhaling sharply. I was going to. Eventually. I let out a bitter laugh. Eventually? So what, Dexter? You were just going to keep sneaking around until one day you felt guilty enough to confess? It's not like that, he muttered, his voice low, strained. You don't understand. Then make me understand, I snapped. Make me understand how the man I trusted, the man I built a life with, decided that I wasn't enough. He flinched like I had struck him, but I didn't care. I wanted him to feel what I felt. The betrayal, the humiliation, the way my heart felt like it had been hollowed out and left to bleed. I never meant to hurt you. I shook my head, the words hitting me like a slap. You never meant for me to find out. He stepped closer, reaching out, but I pulled back before he could touch me. His face twisted with something I couldn't read, regret, shame, maybe even love. But love doesn't do this. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't destroy. Jalen, you wanted this lifestyle. You said it wasn't cheating. I felt the air leave my lungs. My whole body went still. That was his excuse? That was what he was clinging to? My voice dropped to a whisper. It wasn't cheating when we were in it together. He looked away. But you, my throat tightened. You left me behind. He sat down heavily on the couch, his hands running over his face, his posture defeated. He looked tired. Like a man who had been carrying a weight for too long and finally let it drop. And then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, he said, I don't know who I am anymore. My stomach turned. What are you saying? He inhaled shakily, his hands tightening into fists. I didn't plan this, Jalen. I swear to you, I didn't. Josiah, he got inside my head. He made me question things. Feel things I didn't think I could feel. So you just gave in? My voice cracked. Without telling me? Without giving me a choice? He squeezed his eyes shut. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. But it didn't. I felt like I was suffocating. Did you ever love me? Or was this just, what? Some kind of cover until you figured yourself out? His head snapped up. Don't do that. Don't act like you meant nothing to me. Then tell me the truth. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Was I ever enough for you? Silence. The kind that stretches too long. The kind that tells you everything you don't want to hear. I stood up, my legs shaking beneath me, my whole body screaming at me to run, to leave, to forget I had ever loved this man. But I couldn't move. Not yet. I forced myself to look at him. Did you ever think about telling me? He hesitated. And then, with a voice full of something I couldn't name, he whispered, I didn't want to lose you. But he already had. I used to think betrayal was simple. That it was black and white. That it had clear edges, a beginning, an end. That it was something you could point to and say, there. That's the moment it all fell apart. But it isn't like that. Betrayal is slow. It seeps in like water through cracks you didn't even know were there. It's silent. It's patient. And by the time you realize it's happened, it's too late. The foundation is already gone. The walls have already collapsed. And you're just standing there, surrounded by the wreckage, wondering how you didn't see it sooner. I should have seen it sooner. The days after that night were a blur. I don't remember eating. I don't remember sleeping. I don't remember feeling anything other than the suffocating weight of what had just happened. I thought I was strong. I thought I was open-minded. I thought I could handle anything. But nothing could have prepared me for this. I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. The messages. the look on Dexter's face. The way his voice had cracked when he told me he didn't know who he was anymore. But what about me? What was I supposed to do with this? With the knowledge that the man I had built my life with, the man I had trusted above all else, had been lying to me for months. I felt like a fool. No. I was a fool. I had willingly walked into my own betrayal. I had let this happen. I had convinced myself, over and over, that this was okay. That what we were doing wasn't dangerous. That we weren't like other people. That we had rules. That we had control. But control is an illusion. And I had lost mine a long time ago. Dexter tried to fix it. Or maybe he just wanted to ease his own guilt. He told me we could work through it. That we could go to therapy. That he still loved me. That this didn't change anything. But it changed everything. Infidelity isn't just getting intimate. It's breaking trust. It's breaking love. It's taking something sacred, something built on faith, on commitment, and setting it on fire. And standing there, in the ashes of what we once were, I realized something. This wasn't just about Dexter and Josiah. It wasn't just about lies or secrets or hidden messages. This was about me. About what I was willing to tolerate. About what I was willing to forgive. About what I had been telling myself just to keep from falling apart. Because the truth is, I had been lying to myself for a long time. I had told myself I was happy. That this was love. That this was trust. That this was something stronger than marriage, stronger than monogamy. That we were untouchable. But we weren't. We never were. The hardest part wasn't accepting that Dexter had betrayed me. It was accepting that I had betrayed myself. I had ignored my instincts. I had silenced the voice in my head that told me something was wrong. I had let my own fear of losing him blind me to the fact that I had already lost him a long time ago. And maybe I had lost myself, too. I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. She looked like me. She had my face, my skin, my eyes. But she wasn't me. She was someone else. Someone smaller. Someone weaker. Someone who had given up parts of herself, piece by piece, just to keep a man who was never really hers to begin with. I couldn't be that woman anymore. I wouldn't. Divorce. The word sat heavy in my chest, like a stone pressing against my ribs. It wasn't just an option. It was inevitable. A wound that needed to be cut open so it could finally heal. But leaving meant admitting that it was over. That the life I had built, the love I had fought for, was gone. Was I ready for that? Did I even have a choice? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. I couldn't stay. The day I left, there was no screaming. No last-minute begging. No grand, dramatic moment where Dexter realized he had made a mistake and tried to stop me. There was just silence. And for the first time in a long time, I welcomed it. I packed my bag slowly, deliberately, folding each piece of my life with the kind of care I wished someone had shown me. I had spent so much time holding on to this marriage, trying to make it work, trying to convince myself that love was enough to fix what was broken. But sometimes, love isn't enough. Sometimes, you have to love yourself more. Dexter watched me from the doorway, his face unreadable. Maybe he was sad. Maybe he was relieved. Maybe he didn't even know what he felt anymore. I didn't ask. I zipped up my suitcase, took one last look at the home we had built together, and walked past him without a word. He didn't stop me. I don't think he ever expected me to. Carolyn reached out a few days later. A long, rambling message full of empty apologies, telling me she had wanted to tell me the truth, but didn't know how. That she never meant to hurt me. That she hoped, someday, I could forgive her. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Josiah never said a word. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe he didn't. Maybe, in his mind, he had won. But there are no winners in betrayal. Only people left to pick up the pieces. And that's what I did. Slowly. Painfully. One piece at a time. For weeks, I felt like a ghost. Like I had been stripped down to nothing, just a hollow version of the woman I used to be. I kept waiting for the anger to come. The rage. The need for revenge. But it never did. Instead, there was grief. Not just for Dexter, or for my marriage, but for the version of myself that had believed in it so completely. The woman who had convinced herself that love was stronger than betrayal. That trust could survive anything. She was gone now. And in her place was someone new. Someone who knew better. I don't regret leaving. I don't regret walking away from a life that no longer fit me. But I do regret the time I wasted pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I used to think knowing the truth was the worst thing that could happen to me. But now, I realize something. The truth doesn't destroy you. The lie does. So, if you had the choice, would you rather know the truth? Or live in the illusion? Betrayal is something too many people have experienced, but rarely talk about. If you've ever been through something like this, I want to hear your story. Leave a comment below, let's have a real conversation. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are so many stories out there waiting to be told, and I hope you'll be here for the next one.